He resolved to live for himself from now on, vowing never to attend school, college, university, or any form of formal education again. Yet, despite his firm decision, he now finds himself standing in front of Einrogard, the Empire's most prestigious magic academy. Accompanied by one of the escort knights who guided him here, he steps through its gates. The knight, Aurelong, is deeply moved. Once resigned to being a relic of the past, he now feels a renewed sense of purpose after assisting the young master. Watching him grow into a remarkable young man, worthy of Einrogard, has made Aurelong realize his own worth. Our boy, however, is gloomy. Despite his determination, he couldn't sever his ties to schooling, even in this life. Memories of his past life resurface. Graduating from university alongside his friend, who marveled at how they survived under relentless professors. Those professors drove them to exhaustion, sometimes forcing them to join weekly hiking clubs and other times assigning grueling tasks that kept them working through the night. For weeks, they subsisted on nothing but kimbap, barely scraping by. Our boy's friend once remarked that, while every graduate student goes through similar struggles, he believed our boy was truly exceptional. But our boy humbly felt he had simply done his best in his circumstances. His friend, however, jokingly suggested he should repeat grad school, insisting that our boy was perfectly suited to that life. To this, our boy replied that he had only done his part and didn't care how others perceived it. He made it clear he had no intention of returning to any place of learning, firmly resolved to live life on his own terms. After declaring this to his friend, our boy walked out of the school gates. However, as he was crossing the road, a speeding truck, whose brakes had failed, struck him with full force. His education and degree became nothing more than a futile memory. Yet even in the face of death, his resolve to avoid school remained unwavering. The scene shifts to another world, where our boy is reincarnated as a baby. However, our boy, now known as Leon Wardenaz in this world, retains all the memories of his previous life. Born as the third son of House Wardenaz, the Empire's foremost magical family, Leon initially believes it must all be a dream. The idea of being reincarnated as a noble, let alone the third son of a powerful and wealthy household, seems too far-fetched to be real. But when he realizes this might be a reward for enduring grad school in his previous life, he feels a flicker of happiness. Perhaps this is his chance to live an easier life. Unfortunately, his optimism is short-lived. Leon soon learns that House Wardenaz follows a strict rule. The first son inherits everything, while the rest of the children are left to forge their own paths. Accepting his reality, Leon decides to pursue swordsmanship, reasoning that it might prove useful in the future. He personally approaches Auralag to request training in the art of the sword. Besides, he figures, there's nothing better to do, and fortunately, the Wardenaz family generously supports any pursuit the younger children choose to explore. Auralag is thrilled and eagerly asks Leon if he plans to walk the path of the sword. However, Leon calmly replies that he intends to become a magician, as it seems like the most stable and practical path. Auralag is taken aback by the response, while Leon is momentarily startled, wondering if his answer sounded too unambitious. To his surprise, Auralag suddenly bursts into tears. Auralag explains that he is deeply moved by Leon's wisdom, marveling at how, unlike most children who are often blinded by youthful fantasies, Leon is already planning a practical and reasonable future. But Leon doesn't see it as anything extraordinary. He believes it's only natural to become a realist after enduring the hardships of grad school. Leon's decision to pursue magic stems from its versatility and high demand. A skilled magician is valued not only in the Order of Knights but also in the Adventurers Guild, the Imperial Family, and countless other prestigious institutions. And the Empire's greatest magic academy, Einrogard, stands as the pinnacle for training such talent. The scene shifts to Leon, who after reminiscing about his youth and previous life, our boy now finds himself standing in front of Einrogard Academy, resigned to enduring yet another school life for a few years. Aurelong tries to reassure Leon, telling him he will do well, especially since even the Patriarch acknowledged his talent. However, Leon merely thanks Aurelong for his hollow words. He finds it hard to believe, considering the Patriarch didn't even allow him to practice magic, claiming it was too dangerous for children. Aurelong then informs Lian that he cannot accompany him further, as neither attendants nor horses are allowed beyond this point. As Aurelong departs, our boy overhears someone shouting for others to make way, announcing the arrival of the Duke's daughter. However, some people stubbornly refuse to move, citing that the Imperial Prince is present with them. Lian, meanwhile, can't help but think there are far too many people and noble guards gathered here, considering Einrogard is supposed to be a place one enters alone. As these thoughts run through his mind, he notices someone standing behind him who doesn't appear to be feeling well. Our boy asks the man if he's okay, to which the man replies that he's not. He explains that he won't be able to function without his servants, describing them as his hands and feet. Lian responds that the man's complaint is quite logical, though inwardly he is disgusted by the noble's inability to handle even simple tasks. The man, however, doesn't stop there. He begins ranting about how the academy, under the guise of equality, has even started admitting slaves as students. Outraged, he declares that he'll file a formal complaint using his family's name and storms off toward one of the academy officials. Lian encourages him to go ahead, curious to see how the academy will handle such a situation. To Lian's shock, the academy official doesn't hesitate to use mind manipulation magic on the complainer, forcing him to repent for his behavior. Stunned, Lian realizes they have no qualms about employing such magic, even on noble children. It dawns on him that the rumors he'd heard about the academy being a place filled with monsters might actually be. Not to mention, there's the infamous rumor about the academy burying its attendees in the mountains if they die. As our boy is lost in thought, the academy gates suddenly creak open, releasing an eerie smoke and a sinister sound that engulfs the area. A voice booms out, calling the attendees stupid ironheads as part of their unsettling welcome. The atmosphere grows heavy with an overwhelming magical pressure, and Lian immediately realizes that it can only be the work of the academy's infamous headmaster. As the oppressive force settles over everyone, Lian notices the shocked expressions of the attendees around him, all equally shaken by the headmaster's sheer presence. The headmaster addresses them in a commanding tone, reminding them that they were instructed to enter alone. He warns that if they refuse to follow the rules, he will enforce them himself. The headmaster hurls all the extra people out of the academy grounds. He then orders the attendees to stop standing around like fools and start moving. As he speaks, a massive green skull materializes above the gate, its menacing voice repeatedly urging the terrified attendees to step into the academy. With this unnerving spectacle, Lian's first day at Einrogard, the Empire's greatest magic academy, begins. And already, he has a very bad feeling about what lies ahead. The scene shifts to the interior of Einrogard Academy, where students walk through the corridors, many looking dejected after being called Iron Heads despite being the successors of their respective lands. As our boy makes his way through the corridor, he is approached from behind by a girl who introduces herself as Yoker Makin, a member of the Makin house, another prominent family of magicians like the Wardenass. Lian turns toward her and bluntly asks what she wants. She replies that the Imperial Highness wishes to see him, which takes our boy by surprise. However, as he glances toward the Imperial Prince, who is acting uncharacteristically cheerful, Lian quickly realizes that the students are already fiercely vying to build connections on the first day. After all, Einrogard isn't just a place for development. It's also a hub for socialization and networking. As Lian observes the Imperial Prince, he thinks to himself that calling him Imperial Highness feels excessive. The Emperor has over 100 children, and, just like in the Wardenass family, only the firstborn truly matters in the imperial hierarchy. However, unlike the Wardenass family, the Emperor provides no support to his other children, making their lives even harder. In a place teeming with children of great houses, like Einrogard Academy, the imperial family's standing is often lower than even Yoker Maiken's house. Despite this, Lian can't understand why Yoker is acting so deferential toward the imperial prince. As our boy ponders this, he overhears some students mocking Yoker, finding it laughable that she would assist a no-name prince. However, Lian thinks that building alliances is better than creating enemies. Shaking hands with Yoker, he remarks that there's nothing wrong with making friends. Yoker gratefully thanks him, adding that he's the first person to accept her request. This revelation shocks Lian, who silently curses his fate. He finds himself, of all people, becoming friends with Gainando, the 97th Imperial Prince, or so Gainando claims, as there are rumors he might actually be the 101st Prince. Lian firmly resolves that he wants no part in dealing with triple-digit royalty. Yet, as he observes Gainando further, it becomes clear to him that the prince is remarkably immature. Gainando grows angry when one of the students rejects his proposal. Lian reassures him, suggesting that they simply don't realize how regal an existence Gainando has. However, Gainando doesn't understand what regal means, which makes Lian realize that not only is Gainando immature, but he is also an immature fool. Lian then explains that regal refers to someone of high, prestigious class, someone invaluable. Gainando is pleased by this explanation but remains visibly irritated that the students have refused his proposal and are now conversing with Aidenart. This, he finds humiliating, as he believes it undermines his status. Lian recalls that Aidenart is the 44th Imperial Princess, and she possesses the elegance expected of someone from the Imperial family. It's no surprise that people would flock to her, unlike Gainando. Gainando then requests that Lian take care of Aidenart, noting that he is tall and well-built. Our boy, however, calmly informs him that regal individuals do not harass others. Gainando quickly clarifies, saying he's not asking Lian to harass her, but to punish her instead. Lian responds firmly, stating that regal people don't entertain such thoughts either. Gainando, now visibly confused, asks Lian what he should do. Our boy responds that Gainando should forgive them. However, if Gainando doesn't want to do that, he could simply challenge them to a duel. Gainando is taken aback by this suggestion and tells Lian that, since he is a regal prince, he will forgive them, as there's no need to escalate things that far. Yoker, who had been watching from a distance, is impressed by Lian's ability to manage Gainando's stubbornness, something she, as Gainando's relative, had been unable to do. However, Lian is more concerned by the length Yoker is going to in order to care for Gainando. Curious, our boy asks Yoker why she is going so far for him. Just as Yoker is about to respond, the headmaster of Einrogard Academy appears before them and asks if they enjoyed their conversation, once again referring to them as Iron Heads. The students freeze in fear upon seeing the Lich, the same figure they saw at the gates, now standing before them. Lian is surprised to discover that the headmaster of the greatest magic academy is a Lich. A Lich is a being who willingly becomes undead in order to overcome death, typically the result of a great magician's desire for immortality. The headmaster then turns toward the students and asks them to consider why he has been calling them Ironheads for some time. Aidenart responds that it is because the symbol for this year's freshman is steel. The headmaster finds Aidenart's answer phenomenal and grants 10 points to her dorm, which amazes Aidenart, as she didn't know there was a point system for dorms. However, her excitement is short-lived when the headmaster informs her that she was mistaken. He tells Aidenart that she should have already known the answer because, if one wants to become a magician, they must first learn how to distinguish lies from the truth. The headmaster then clarifies that while the symbol for this year's freshman is indeed steel, the reason for this is that steel is a valuable material with a variety of uses. Its properties change depending on how it is crafted. The headmaster continues, stating that steel is indeed a material well-suited for this year's freshman, which amazes the students. However, he suddenly bursts into laughter and tells them they've fallen for his lies once again. He reveals that the reason their symbol is steel is because they have nothing in their heads. Lian is shocked as he watches the headmaster mock the students, including imperial princes and princesses, realizing that despite the headmaster's harsh words, no one dares to respond. Our boy understands the reason behind the students' inability to speak back. It's more than just difficult to move in an environment filled with such dense magical energy. However, Lian feels oddly at ease in this atmosphere, pondering whether it's because he has grown accustomed to it or if the headmaster has somehow adjusted it. The headmaster suddenly becomes more understanding, telling the students that he has been too harsh on them, considering the long journey they've made to get here. He then directs their attention to the door on their left. As the headmaster speaks, he notices that Lian is able to move freely despite the dense magical energy in the air. Everyone turns toward the door on their left, which opens to reveal a bright light, and they are greeted with the sight of food laid out on the tables. The headmaster invites everyone to enjoy the feast and to relieve themselves of the fatigue accumulated during their journeys. The students can hardly contain their excitement upon seeing the delicious spread before them, praying that this isn't just another one of the headmaster's jokes. The sight of white bread generously slathered with thick slices of cheese and butter, along with well-cooked chicken coated in oil, butter, spices, and flour, which had been boiled into a flavorful dish, makes their mouths water. There is also gratin covered in bechamel sauce and fresh fish grilled in the Eastern style over charcoal. Gainando, like the other students, becomes very excited upon seeing the various dishes. He grabs his knife and fork to devour the fish. However, as he begins eating, all of the food in front of him suddenly disappears. The headmaster laughs once more, finding it hard to believe that the students have fallen for his joke a third time. He tells them to pull themselves together. Leon, who is observing the entire scene, thinks to himself that the skeletal headmaster has clearly lost quite a few things, as he's heard that becoming a lich results in the loss of certain aspects of one's humanity. The headmaster then informs the students that this academy is a birthplace for magicians, and that the greatest driving force behind a developing magician is their thirst for knowledge. As he says this, he conjures large amounts of bread, rice cakes, and the students' shabby uniforms. The food provided is barely enough to fill one's stomach, and Gainando, outraged, feels the urge to protest, believing the headmaster has gone too far. However, this feeling is precisely what the headmaster intended. He tells the students that if they find the food unappetizing, they should learn magic to acquire better meals for themselves. Likewise, if they are dissatisfied with their shabby uniforms and wands, they should use magic to acquire new clothes and wands. These, he declares, are the very laws of the academy. After observing the restrictions, one of the students suggests that it is possible to obtain things by asking for them outside. The headmaster becomes excited upon hearing this response and informs them that freshmen are not allowed to leave the academy, nor are they permitted to ask senior students for such things. After explaining the rules, the headmaster wishes the students good luck, hoping they will grow into great magicians. Leon watches this entire scene in silence, reflecting on whether every place has its share of eccentric professors. If that's the case, he's well acquainted with such individuals. Before his reincarnation, the professor in his laboratory had the same gleam in his eyes filled with madness. As Leon is lost in these thoughts, Gainando approaches him to complain about how poorly they are being treated, citing the terrible food and clothes. Leon, however, counters that the headmaster is better than his old professor, as they are at least providing food. Leon points out that the headmaster is at least providing food and clothing, which surprises Gainando. Not even his servants would tolerate such provisions, making him wonder about the kind of life Leon must have lived. Assuming Leon comes from a poor background, Gainando invites him to visit his house someday. This unexpected offer surprises Leon, but he accepts graciously and suggests they head toward the dorms. Einrogard Academy prided itself on accepting students based solely on their talent, regardless of their status. However, to prevent disputes among its sensitive and competitive students, the dormitories were divided into 4 towers according to status. The first was the Tower of the Arrogant Blue Dragon, reserved exclusively for those of noble lineage. This tower housed students from renowned families, including members of the imperial family and individuals like Leon. The second was the Tower of the Eternally Burning Phoenix, which only admitted those devoted to the holy flame. This solemn and honest tower was home to priests from various religious orders. The third tower was the Tower of the Lightning-Rending White Tiger, where only those with the ferocity to strike down anything in their path were allowed entry. This tower housed bloodlines from the noble houses of knights, students prepared to walk dual paths as both knights and wizards. The last was the Tower of the Past and Future-Seeing Black Turtle, open only to those with endless patience. It welcomed individuals from various backgrounds: civilians, servants, slaves, clowns, beggars, and even emerging lower-class nobles. Compared to the other dorms, this tower and its residents were often overlooked due to their lower status. Most freshmen found it intimidating. However, to Leon's discerning eyes, they were ideal business partners. As the students from the Tower of the Black Turtle gathered to discuss matters among themselves, they noticed Lian watching them closely. Though unsure of his motives, they could tell he wasn't looking down on them. Meanwhile, Lian himself contemplated his plans, observing them with interest and intent. On the other hand, Lian was strategizing about how to befriend the students of the Fourth Tower. Our boy realized that the best way to earn money was through business, and excelling at it required field experience, something he could gain from the merchants of the Fourth Tower. However, as he pondered this, he overheard someone remark that it was unnecessary to accept such lowly people as the students of the Fourth Tower, no matter how one looked at it. The room fell silent as everyone turned to stare at the brown-haired boy who had made the insulting comment. Arrogantly, he defended himself, asking if he had said anything wrong. But Lian couldn't tolerate such blatant disrespect toward his potential business partners. Calmly but firmly, our boy responded, "The only lowlife in this academy is you. Everyone here has set aside everything they had before coming to this place, and that is something you should never forget." His words resonated with the students, who immediately took his side. They admired the high morals expected from a member of the Wardenaz family. The brown-haired boy and his friends, however, were caught off guard, clearly not anticipating such a bold reaction from Lian. Our boy assessed the situation and concluded that everything was now working in his favor. Determined, he decided to approach the students from the Fourth Tower. However, just as Lian started toward them, the brown-haired boy issued a sharp warning to everyone. He cautioned them against getting close to anyone from the Wardenaz house, claiming it was a dangerous family. The boy went further, warning them not even to make eye contact with members of the Wardenaz family, as it was rumored that their patriarch was a dragon and that they carried the bloodline of an ancient serpent. Lian was taken aback by this dramatic reaction. Turning to Yoner, he asked with genuine curiosity, "Do I really look that scary?" Yoner chuckled softly and replied, "Not scary, but you exude the dignity of a noble. There's no doubt you belong to one of the great houses." What Yoner said made sense, but Lian hadn't realized the extent of his family's notoriety until now. As the conversation continued, Gainando suddenly appeared, seemingly out of nowhere. "Why did you two leave the Imperial Prince alone?" he asked, clearly offended. Yoner quickly apologized, attempting to placate him, while Lian, unbothered by Gainando's complaints, turned back to Yoner. "By the way," he said, "I'd still like to hear the rest of what you were saying earlier, about why you let Gainando act so childishly." Yoner responded that her behavior toward Gainando was due to Gainando's mother, which piqued Lian's curiosity. He questioned Yoner further, asking if she had some sort of encounter with Gainando's mother, the queen, that left her indebted to her. Lian couldn't help but imagine a dramatic scenario where Yoner had spilled juice on the queen's dress while running through the hallway, despite being told repeatedly not to run. In his imagined story, everyone assumed the good days of House Mage were over because Yoner had ruined one of the queen's most expensive dresses. He pictured a terrified Yoner, only to be surprised when the queen gently lifted her up, forgave her mistake, and asked if she was okay. However, Yoner quickly dashed Lian's fanciful story. "There was no such thing," she said flatly. "The only reason I'm acting friendly with Gainando is because the queen gave me an allowance to do so." Lian, disappointed that his imagined tale had been crushed, looked visibly let down. Yoner, noticing his reaction, added, "And it's not a small amount either. The allowance is pretty generous, so I figured I might as well act like his friend." This made Lian conclude that he, too, should be friends with Gainando. The scene then shifted to a massive open ground where all the freshmen had gathered. They stood in awe at the sheer vastness of the area, which included a lake, a forest, and mountains. Our boy realized that the headmaster wasn't exaggerating when he said they'd have to obtain everything on their own. As Lian pondered this, he noticed a group of students, seemingly from the Tower of the Blue Dragon, looking confused and disoriented, as though they'd lost their way. Curious, he turned to Yoner and asked why they were standing around aimlessly. Yoner pointed toward a particular direction and explained that their dorm was supposed to be there. Lian followed her gesture and turned to look at the place she indicated. What he saw left him utterly shocked. Lian, along with the other students, was stunned to see a pathetic-looking building that clearly couldn't accommodate them all comfortably. Gainando, however, was outraged. He couldn't believe the academy expected them to live in such a place, complaining that even his servants' quarters were far better. Lian also thought the building seemed like a tight fit for so many people, but he refrained from voicing his displeasure. As he entered the building with Yoner and Gainando, who continued grumbling about the academy, Lian suddenly experienced a peculiar sensation. A strange magic enveloped him, isolating him from the rest of the students. To his shock, everyone around him had seemingly vanished. While pondering what might have happened to Yoner and Gainando, a voice echoed through the air, addressing him as small magician. The voice asked Lian where he would like to go. Recognizing the nature of the situation, Lian quickly deduced that the dorm was actually a magic tower, something befitting a prestigious magic academy. Instead of answering the question directly, our boy asked the voice where he could go. The voice, impressed by Lian's quick adaptation to the situation, praised him. The voice told Lian that the only places he could currently access were his personal room and the iron break room, a common area exclusive to first-year students. Hearing this, Lian had a realization and asked if there were other locations he might gain access to in the future. The voice confirmed his suspicion, explaining that some areas could be accessed by simply knowing their names, while others required additional knowledge or conditions. However, it also informed him that those places couldn't be revealed at the moment, as per the headmaster's strict orders. Lian couldn't help but think that the headmaster was enforcing rules unnecessarily, reminding him of his old school and his previous life. Shaking off his annoyance, he instructed the voice to take him to his personal room. The voice warmly welcomed him to Einrogard and transported him there. The scene then shifted to Lian's room, where he was reading the instruction manual for Einrogard Academy. As he flipped through its pages, he discovered an interesting detail. Aside from the core subjects, students had the freedom to choose their remaining classes. What intrigued him most was that students could attend various classes for a trial period of 1 month before making their final selections. Moreover, our boy learns that the headmaster's name is Osu Gonadaltz. After reading the entire instruction manual, Lian realizes that the academy's system is not as strict as he had initially feared. In fact, he finds it much easier than the rigorous grad school he attended in his previous life. He also notices that his room is equipped with almost everything he might need, a stark contrast to the sentiments of many other students, who feel their rooms fall far short of their lofty expectations. Having read and thoroughly understood the rules, Lian decides to explore what classes other students are signing up for. He heads to the iron break room, as mentioned earlier by the mysterious voice. Upon arrival, he asks Yoner about the subjects she plans to take. She excitedly responds that she wants to study alchemy, as she has always been fascinated by it. Yoner shares her dream of setting up her own workshop someday and supplying high-quality products to the imperial family. Lian, ever pragmatic, tells her that alchemy is indeed a profitable field. Hearing this, Yoner jokingly asks if Lian would be willing to work for her when she establishes her workshop. Lian responds to Yoner, saying that alchemy is not as straightforward a business as it seems and politely requests some time to think about her proposal. He recalls that the Empire's alchemy industry is highly competitive, rife with unethical practices such as spreading false rumors about competitors, monopolizing potion ingredients, and even sparking guild conflicts over market shares. With this in mind, our boy concludes that pursuing a stable field might be the best option for him. Yoner then asks Lian about the subjects he is considering. This sends him into deep thought. Lian believes it would be wise to select subjects that are less competitive and relatively easy to earn high grades in, as his primary goal is to become an imperial officer or government worker. In such fields, grades and qualifications matter far more than the specific area of expertise. However, Lian feels that sharing such a pragmatic approach with someone as passionate as Yoner might dampen her enthusiasm. Instead, our boy tells her that he plans to explore a variety of subjects over the next month before making a final decision, as one should never rush into important choices. As they discuss their fields of interest, Gainando bursts into the break room, announcing that there's a problem. He suspects there was a thief in his room, as it is completely empty. Both Lian and Yoner exchange bewildered glances, unsure of how to respond to him. A day passes, and all of the students leave their rooms to explore different classes. Leon, meanwhile, can be seen reading a book on basic magic comprehension, which is a core subject for first years. The lecture times for this class vary depending on the dorm. While reading, Leon notices that some students seem off, so he asks what's wrong. Yoner explains that they're hungry, the beds in their rooms are so uncomfortable that they couldn't sleep well, and the prickly clothes are absolutely unbearable. Leon listens to Yoner's complaints about the dorm rooms and wonders if it's really as bad as she says. To him, the conditions are miles better compared to his past life, where he didn't even have scheduled meal times. Leon recalls that, in his past life, his only source of food for the day was energy bars, and at night, he had to survive on cup ramen and a triangle kimbap. Leon and the other students arrive at the lecture hall, still venting about the poor living conditions in the dorms. However, when they open the door, they are shocked to find a troll inside. Trolls are ferocious and dangerous monsters feared by even the most sheltered nobles, but everyone is taken aback when they see a troll in the lecture hall, dressed appropriately and welcoming the students to enter. The lecturer introduces herself as Garcia Kim and explains that she is half-troll. She understands why everyone might be afraid of her but reassures them that there is no reason to be scared. She doesn't hurt people, though, she adds, that's only true unless she gets very angry. Garcia makes a very intimidating face as she says this, which scares everyone in the room. Garcia quickly clarifies that it was a joke. However, after seeing the gloomy and frightened expressions on the students' faces, she regrets making such a remark. Despite this, she proceeds with her lecture. Garcia conjures a spell in her hand, causing it to glow, and explains that most of the students present have likely never used magic before. This is due to the extremely dangerous nature of magic, which is why only adults are typically allowed to wield it. However, things are different for everyone here, as they are the magician seeds who have earned the title of Steel. Garcia informs them that this lecture will not only teach them about magic, but also help them discover the type of magic they have an aptitude for. She then warns them about the dangers of magic. Garcia explains the rigor and challenges of the journey they will face as magicians, telling them that she hopes to become their compass through this difficult path. Everyone is amazed by Garcia's lecture and feels relieved to learn that not all professors at Einrogard are like the headmaster, OSU Gonaldates. Garcia decides to begin with the basics and asks the class what they know about magic. Aidenart responds, saying that it is the responsibility of a magician to change the world with their will. Garcia praises her answer, adding that magic is the use of one's magical energy as the fundamental force to alter the world. She explains that everyone enrolled in this academy is talented enough to sense and recognize this magic energy. However, to truly wield magic, one must go beyond just recognizing it. Garcia goes on to say that to use magic, a magician must call upon their magic energy with their will and delicately weave it together. This process will eventually allow them to cast magic. She then clarifies that while many believe magic requires a chant or specific motions, it is not always the case. What is truly important is one's own will, and Garcia emphasizes this point so that the students never forget it. Realizing she has been talking for a while, Garcia decides it's time to try magic with the class. She instructs everyone to stand up and gather their magic energy. Leon, now nervous that they are about to use magic, starts waving his wand to gather the energy. Meanwhile, Garcia tells the class that they should form an image of light in their minds while gathering their magic energy. Yoner, doing her best, finds it difficult at first. However, she eventually learns how to control the magic energy. She likens it to pulling on the reins of a wildly charging horse. She realizes that if she loses her concentration, the magic energy will disperse, just like the wild horse would run free. As the students focus intently, trying to prevent the magic energy from dispersing, Garcia announces that they will chant their spell together. Garcia begins chanting her lightning spell, which illuminates the entire room, briefly flashing in front of some students. Garcia then tells the students that the chant for the magic spell can be whatever they wish. However, she advises them that a short chant might be easier for retaining focus while concentrating magical energy. Leon, who has been listening attentively to Garcia's explanation, begins to understand the process of using magic. He realizes that first, one must gather magic energy, then transform it with one's will, and finally, chant a spell to unleash the magic. However, Leon also understands that knowing how it works does not mean he can immediately cast magic. Leon attempts to follow the steps he grasped from Garcia's lecture, along with the other students. Meanwhile, Gainandon, on the other hand, messes it up to the point where his magic spirals out of control. Before it can harm anyone, Garcia intervenes to cancel Gainandon's magic, warning the class that if they fail to control their magic, it could become dangerous. However, since it is the professor's responsibility to prevent such accidents, Garcia allows the students to continue practicing and to try again if they have any magic energy left. Many students attempted again, but none of them is able to cast magic. 1/3 of the students simply gave up trying, while the rest continued to make another attempt. Garcia, amused by their persistence despite the lack of success, thought it would take at least a month of practice for them to learn this spell, even though it was classified as one of the simplest. She encouraged them to try again, but none of the students succeeded. This time, half of the class gave up. The students made a 4th attempt, but when they saw no results, the majority of them quit, leaving only 3 students still trying. After the 5th attempt, only 1 student remained, still giving his best effort to cast the spell. Despite trying 7 times, Leon was unable to perform the magic. Realizing that everyone except him had stopped trying, Leon asked Garcia if he should continue, even though he was the last one still attempting. Garcia realized that Leon was on his 7th attempt, which surprised her, as most freshmen typically reach their limit by the 5th attempt, even if they possess a lot of magic energy. The magic energy Garcia had mentioned earlier has several names. In the East, a certain tribe refers to it as ki, while a scholar who likes to show off might call it ether, and some stubborn priests call it divine energy. This power, with its many names, is the source of a magician's strength. Young novice magicians often face a problem known as magic energy deficiency when practicing magic because each time a spell is cast, the magician uses their available magic energy. However, Garcia could hardly believe her eyes when she saw that Leon's complexion didn't change at all, despite it being his 7th attempt. Impressed by his resilience, Garcia asked for his name. Leon introduced himself simply by his name, omitting his house, which earned him favor with Professor Garcia, who appreciated seeing a student practice equality. She instructed Leon to step forward and extend his hand, which she took to assess his magic energy. The moment Garcia made contact, she felt as though she was being engulfed and submerged in a vast, bottomless ocean. She felt herself being continuously drawn deeper into the ocean, unable to escape. Garcia realizes that someone is calling her, which causes her to suddenly wake up. She discovers that she lost consciousness when she grabbed Leon's hand. Leon asks if there's an issue, to which she responds that everything is fine, and they should now turn their attention to the lecture. Gainandon, who had been observing the interaction, whispers to Yoner that they should try to save Leon. Yoner, unimpressed, calls Gainandon an idiot and tells him to be quiet for a moment. Meanwhile, Garcia tells Leon to see her after the lecture ends, which surprises him, but he has no choice but to comply. Garcia then refocuses the class, advising them not to be discouraged by how quickly they run out of magical energy. She instructs them to continue practicing, as the amount of magic energy they possess will increase the more they practice, and they will use less energy with each attempt. Garcia also cautions that too much motivation can cause students to lose control while practicing. As a result, they risk injuring themselves. Garcia specifically points to Gainandon, who messed up last time. With that, Garcia concludes the lecture, and everyone prepares for their next class, while Leon heads to meet Garcia in her office. The scene shifts to Garcia's office, where Leon arrives, curious about why she called him out separately. He asks her about it, and Garcia responds that she did so because she had already heard about him prior to their lecture from the records. Leon is shocked when he hears that Garcia learned about him through the eccentric lich, OSU. However, noticing Leon's concern upon hearing OSU's name, Garcia reassures him not to worry. She explains that, although OSU may seem a little unhinged, he is actually a kind person. The students are unaware of this, but the headmaster has a keen eye for people. Every year, he provides the professors with information about the new students. As always, OSU warned the professors to be extremely cautious with the Beast Man, as he is capable of burning down the entire dorm multiple times over. OSU also advised them to avoid using holy magic near a student who is a half-demon. As for Leon, OSU told the professors that he has the qualities of a massive fool and instructed them to take that at face value. Garcia recalls a saying from the East: "What may seem greatly foolish might be connected to great wisdom." This suggests that a massive fool could also be a massive genius. Garcia realizes that Headmaster OSU sees in Leon the potential for someone who will achieve great success. This makes Garcia wonder what kind of student Leon truly is. Realizing she cannot share the headmaster's comments with him, Garcia tells Leon that he was called to the office because he possesses an unusually high amount of magical energy. Leon feels relieved that it is nothing serious and wonders whether this was really something that required a private meeting. He thinks that it doesn't matter, as everyone can increase the limits of their magical energy. However, he is shocked when Garcia tells him that she cannot even fathom the limits of his magical energy. The amount of magical energy one possesses is a key determining factor in a magician's potential. If a magician lacks sufficient energy, they must rely on complicated methods to draw out more. On the other hand, having abundant magical energy means a magician is free from such restrictions, which signifies a great talent in the field of magic. Leon feels happy upon hearing this, as it suggests a promising future for him. However, he is confused when Garcia remarks that it is a shame that he has so much magical energy. Our boy asks Professor Garcia if having a lot of magical energy is not a good thing. Garcia replies that while having magical energy is beneficial, Leon's case is different. He has too much of it. To explain, Garcia uses an analogy, comparing magical energy to water in a glass. A small amount, like the water in the glass she is holding, is manageable and easy to control. However, controlling an amount as vast as an ocean is an entirely different challenge, even for the most skilled magicians. Leon listens to this explanation and realizes that the difficulty of controlling magical energy, an essential skill for performing magic, would be unreasonably high for someone with his level of energy. He is shocked at the thought that this might hinder his progress on the path of magic. Seeing his concern, Garcia offers him a bracelet designed to absorb excess magical energy, explaining that it will help mitigate the issue. Leon thanks Garcia for the bracelet and asks if wearing it solves the problem entirely. Garcia shakes her head, explaining that if the solution were that simple, she wouldn't have called him to her office. Resigned to his predicament, Leon asks Garcia if she has any further advice for him. Garcia responds that the bracelet will help Leon manage his magical energy if he uses many spells to deplete it. She also tells our boy that he is allowed to practice independently, as there would be no risk of accidents due to magic energy depletion in his case. Grateful for the allowance, Leon thanks Garcia, though he doesn't believe he needs such special privileges. After leaving Garcia's office, Leon joins Yoner and Gaynandon, his mind preoccupied with concerns about his future, which now seems uncertain. Determined to stay on top of his grades, he begins to wonder if he should focus on classes where magic is less central to success. Curious, he asks Yoner and Gaynandon if they have any classes in mind. Yoner enthusiastically replies that she plans to take alchemy classes and invites them to join her. To Leon's surprise, Gaynandon dismissively responds that alchemy is a subject meant for servants. His blunt comment shocks Leon, but Gaynandon continues, claiming that Yoner is foolish for considering alchemy, as it has no proper principles to learn. Yoner, who had been quietly listening to Gaynandon's nonsense about alchemy, seems unimpressed. Yoner clenches her fist tightly, tells our boy to step aside, and delivers a heavy punch that sends Gaynandon flying down the stairs. She warns him not to ask for a potion if he ends up in the hospital. Leon, who had picked up a thing or two about combat during his sword lessons, notes that Yoner's punch was flawless, executed with precision down to the smallest detail. After thoroughly dealing with Gaynandon, Yoner proceeds to attend the basic alchemic comprehension class with our boy. However, Leon, still concerned, asks her if hitting Gaynandon that hard was really okay. Yoner casually replies that it's fine as long as she apologizes tomorrow. This response leads Leon to conclude that this probably wasn't the first time Yoner had hit Gaynandon. As they walk toward the classroom, Yoner notices a large number of students from other towers, while Leon realizes that many of them belong to the Tower of the Black Turtle. Although he doesn't mind if students from the fourth tower are attending the same class, their persistent gazes toward him make him feel uneasy. Peasants typically react to encountering a noble in one of two ways. They either fear them, avoiding entanglement at all costs, something Leon observed just yesterday, or they show open hostility. As Leon listens to someone mutter about how even the warden's house holds no power within the academy, he realizes that trying to act overly friendly with them might backfire. Deciding it's best to let things progress naturally, he opts to keep a low profile. Students enrolled in the basic alchemic comprehension class gather outside on the academy grounds, waiting for their professor. Leon, after encountering a lich headmaster and a half-troll professor, muses that it wouldn't be surprising if their new professor turned out to be equally strange. However, his expectations are quickly overturned when their professor arrives, a completely normal-looking dwarf. The dwarf introduces himself as Yurgolm Jumdar, instructing the students to simply call him Professor Yurgolm. Professor Yurgolm addresses the students, acknowledging that they must be wondering why they are gathered in an open field with not a single desk in sight, despite the grandeur of the Einrogard Academy building. Aidenart confidently raises her hand and suggests that they are gathered outside to connect with nature's mana, as understanding the powers within nature is crucial for alchemists. However, Yurgolm shakes his head and tells her she is wrong. Meanwhile, Yoner turns to Leon and asks if he knows the answer. Our boy hesitates before suggesting that perhaps they are in the forest because it is a good place to gather materials. Yurgolm, overhearing Leon's response, commends him for his accurate guess and praises him as quite the smart ironhead. Aidenart, visibly irritated by Leon's correct answer, seems to grow competitive. Leon, however, silently hopes that this doesn't lead to a rivalry, especially since his answer was merely a lucky guess. Yurgolm then gathers the class's attention, explaining that the true reason they are assembled in this forest is to learn the most essential foundation of alchemy. Professor Yurgolm addresses the class with confidence, stating that many of them likely believe the most important aspects of alchemy are exceptional intelligence and precise magic control. However, he reveals that this assumption is far from the truth. The most crucial skill for an alchemist, Yurgolm explains, is the ability to gather materials effectively. Yoner, who had been attentively listening to the lecture and diligently taking notes, is taken aback by this revelation. She finds it surprising that material collection holds greater importance than intelligence or precise control over magic. Aidenart, however, raises an objection, stating that alchemists can cultivate their own materials or request them from others. She argues that calling material gathering the most important skill in alchemy is a strange assertion. Many students agree with the imperial princess, finding it odd that they, as aspiring alchemists, should prioritize acquiring materials themselves. Hearing this, Yurgolm's temper flares. He scolds the class, calling them ironheads and accusing them of lacking any understanding of the real world. He explains that alchemists can only cultivate less than 10% of the materials they need, and the purchased ones are often of poor quality. He adds that alchemists rely on adventurers because they themselves are terrible at properly gathering herbs, often doing a rushed and careless job when digging up valuable resources. After calming down, Yurgolm emphasizes that every alchemist must learn how to acquire their own materials. Professor Yurgolm firmly explains that without the ability to gather their own materials, no one can become a great alchemist. Believing his explanation to be sufficient, he hands each student a piece of paper with an illustration of a specific material. Yurgolm then announces that they will now move to practical work, instructing the students to find and bring back the material depicted on their paper. Einrogard Academy, despite its prestige, has its share of unsettling rumors. One such rumor claims that students have died while learning magic within its grounds, a fact that Leon acknowledges, as magic is inherently dangerous and prone to accidents. However, sending freshmen into the depths of the forest to gather materials seems reckless and poorly planned. The material Yurgolm has tasked them with finding is corrupted grass, a plant commonly used to make antidotes. Curious about the task, Leon asks Yoner if she has any prior experience with corrupted grass. Yoner confidently replies that she worked with it before enrolling at the academy, which makes the assignment considerably easier for them. However, Leon believes it would be dangerous for just the two of them to venture into the forest. Yoner agrees, suggesting that they need at least 3 people, and asking if there is anyone else from their tower they could team up with. Leon considers asking the Imperial Princess, but Yoner quickly points out that Adenard is quite strict and asks if Leon doesn't find her difficult to work with. Leon responds that it wouldn't matter much since their task is only to gather herbs. However, Yoner informs him that they are too late. Adenard has already finished forming her team. When Leon glances at Adenard's team, he feels a pang of disappointment upon noticing members of the Tower of the Black Turtle among them. He grows sad, believing that Adenard intentionally avoided teaming up with them. Yoner, noticing his reaction, reassures him, saying it shouldn't come as a surprise. She explains that the Imperial Highness was famous even before enrolling at the Academy. Adenard is renowned for her exceptional intelligence and talent, earning recognition even among other members of the Imperial family. With her star power and widespread public admiration, it's no wonder people gravitate toward her, regardless of their status. Leon asks Yoner whether Gainando had any reputation similar to Adenard's, to which Yoner responds that the Imperial Prince never had anything like that. As they continue talking about Adenard, Leon realizes that the students who have already formed their teams have left, leaving only students from the Tower of the Black Turtle behind. Leon thinks about teaming up with the students from the Tower of the Black Turtle, even though they dislike him. It's simply too dangerous for him and Yoner to explore the forest alone, and they need someone who can cover their weaknesses. As Leon considers this, his attention is drawn to a familiar insignia. Recognizing it immediately, he realizes he has found the person he was looking for. Leon's eyes fall on Nilia, a dark elf from the Tower of the Black Turtle. Nilia is a member of the Shadow Patrol, an elite group of skilled hunters and scouts active in the northern mountain ranges of the Empire. The Shadow Patrol is renowned for their expertise in navigating treacherous terrains and their intimate knowledge of the northern wilderness. Nilia, however, on the other hand, Nilia thinks that the task this time is far from difficult. Even though it is her first time hearing about the corrupted grass, she believes it will be easy to find, as the forest is essentially her playground. Nilia is surprised to see so many skilled freshmen, but now the tables have turned. It is her stage to shine. As Nilia decides to begin her search, she is approached by Yoner and Leon, who introduce themselves. Nilia quickly notices that Yoner is a noble, but she does not recognize Leon. She asks them if they want anything from her, to which Yoner asks if she would like to traverse the mountain with them. Nilia's guard goes up at this suggestion, and she immediately questions their true intentions. She believes all nobles are the same, often insulting them by calling them savages. Nilia does not trust nobles, as they may show the best hospitality, yet they still complain about the way elves treat them. She doesn't think Yoner and Leon will be any different from the rest of their kind. As she recalls the horrible things nobles have done to her kin, Leon tells Nilia that it would be dangerous to go into the forest alone. So he asks if she has a plan to deal with the monsters that randomly appear in the forest and mountains. Nilia responds that she does not need anyone's help. However, Leon does not understand why she insists on going alone and asks if she is worried that they might use her as bait or abandon her. Nilia is shocked by this, wondering how Leon was able to discern the true intention behind her refusal. She wants to explain that she just prefers to go by herself, but before she can speak, Leon interrupts her and bluntly tells her that he finds the idea of going into the forest alone to be idiotic. Leon believes that going into the forest for such a task is impossible without assistance. Not only does one have to navigate the dangers of the forest, but they also need to gather and transport materials while fending off monsters that appear out of nowhere. Leon is convinced that Nilia is not foolish enough to think she can handle everything alone, from finding materials to collecting them without any help. Nilia becomes embarrassed, realizing that she was about to be labeled as an idiot. She tells Leon that she will join their team and search for the corrupted grass with them. Leon is pleased with her response and suggests they begin searching for the grass. On the other hand, Yoner is intimidated by how Leon skillfully used words to persuade Nilia and wonders about the things they teach at Wardenaz's house. The scene shifts to Nilia effortlessly leaping and darting through the forest, which surprises both Yoner and Leon. Yoner realizes that Nilia is an experienced hunter and becomes curious about how Leon figured this out, so she asks him. Leon explains that Nilia's well-developed leg and calf muscles, along with the calluses on her palms, indicate that she often uses a bow, traits commonly found in experienced hunters. Nilia, who is eavesdropping from a tree, is surprised to learn that Lian was able to deduce so much about her with so few clues. Nilia realizes that Lian has a strange aura about him, as if he can read people with ease. However, she is shocked when Lian tells Yoner that everything she said about Nilia was a joke, and that he knew Nilia was a hunter because of the shadow insignia on her waist. The shock is so great that it causes Nilia to slip, while Lian, on the other hand, starts laughing and asks Nilia if she had been listening to their conversation. Nilia shakes her head in response. Yoner then suggests that they should start moving and requests that Nilia match her pace with theirs. However, Nilia doesn't understand why she needs to do that. So Yoner explains that she is the only one who can differentiate and find the herb. This means that if Yoner were to collapse, Nilia and Lian would need to find the herb on their own. Nilia realizes that Lian's reasoning is sound and remains silent. Still, Nilia is unsure of Lian's role, so she asks him about it. Before Lian can respond, Nilia interrupts, saying that she is the guide and that Yoner can find the herb, leaving Lian with nothing to do. Lian thinks that Nilia will get upset if he tells her she is taking a free ride, so instead, he says that her role is to protect both Yoner and Nilia. Nilia notices that Lian is well-built and assumes that he must be from a house of knights. However, she doesn't understand why he is living in the Blue Tower, so she asks him to explain. Lian responds that he is not from a house of knights, but rather from Housewardenaz, thinking that this is finally his chance to get closer to Nilia. However, Lian is confused when he sees Nilia's shock at the mere mention of Housewardenaz.